Welcome back to another episode of the Be the CEO of Your Life and Business podcast. So this week we are going to talk about fasting. We've talked about it before on the podcast, and the reason that we're bringing it up is because one, it has proven to be very beneficial for both Laura and I, and Laura's going to deep dive a little bit more into a 24-hour fast that she just completed this week. So proud of her, and I can't wait for you all to hear about it. But secondly, because we are always thinking about health and wellness when it comes to how we run our business, how we show up for ourselves every single day. Laura and I know that like one of our principal core values is like taking care of ourselves. And we think that everything flows from that. If you're not taking care of yourself well, you're not setting yourself up for success to have as much energy as possible to move throughout your day. And when you are as busy as we are, and you are running a business and taking care of your family and taking care of all the thousand things that you are doing on a day-to-day basis, you really need to prioritize your health. And with fasting, it's so crazy. We have really explored all of the research that especially a couple of key players in this space have provided. And it's just fascinating, but it also just makes so much sense. And so we're excited to continue talking about it with you.
Yeah, we love to bring health and wellness topics because they're so important to us. And they play such a role in, like you said, like our business, our personal lives, everything. Like if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So it's a top, as you know, priority for us. Disclaimer, we are not medical professionals.
Nope.
We are not anything of the sort, but we are just bringing this information to you as something that has worked for us. And so we want to talk about it a little bit, but nothing's a guarantee. Somebody else tries it, they could have different results. This has just been our personal experience with the fasting, and also, the doctors and the authors that we have used as our basis to do these fasting protocols.
Right.
It really is incredible how different I feel after this is now my third month. So the book that Amy brought to me, I think we talked about this like a while back.
Yeah.
Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz. Is it Pelz?
Yeah. Pelz.
Pelz. Okay. So she has a 30-day fasting protocol in there. So this is my third month doing it. And I am now doing not just the regular one, but she has an advanced one in the book. And it's really amazing how much better I feel doing it. And this is, guys, I love food. So Amy knows I show up with like my cooler, with all my snacks, all my meals. Like I literally eat, or used to eat, every 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like that was my thing. And the prior nutrition programs that I had used, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yes.
Like before I turned, I would say 46 or so, it worked. Like it was fine. And I think I've spoken previously about how none of the things that I used to do were working for me anymore.
Right.
So when you brought this program to me, I was like, you know what? I will do anything. I'm trying it. And, at first I was like, I don't care about the research. Just tell me what I'm doing. I need the plan. I'm going to start it. And so I didn't even read the book at first. I just read like the plan portion of it. But once I started doing it, I became more interested in knowing why it was working.
Yeah.
So I read more about it, and it's so specific to women, which I love because I think that that's necessary because our bodies are different from men. So I think it's necessary to, at least for me, it was to understand like how it was working and why it was working.
Right.
But for somebody who, like, if I can do this, anybody can do this, unless you have some type of medical condition where you need to eat like a certain way. But I did a 24-hour fast this past week, and I can't believe I survived. I can't believe it. But I survived the 24 hours. I was, measuring my blood sugar to make sure certain things that I didn't break my fast, and they didn't. So I made it 24 hours. And can I please tell you that when I woke up the next morning, I literally felt like a different person. I had more energy. My head was clear. It was so bizarre. I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
I'm so proud of you. First of all, I was getting flashbacks when Laura was going through this 24-hour fast to a time when I was on it's like a reset cleanse or whatever for
Ultimate reset.
No, the other one, the 3-day one.
an equal nightmare.
I got through about like I think I got through maybe 18 hours of day one. And you literally had to drink like these shakes like every few hours and have basically nothing to eat. And it hit me such a way that I was like, I can't, I'm out, abort, get me out of here. I can't do
So
this.
bad.
And I think the reason now looking back, why I just didn't understand why I was doing that cleanse. And now this research that we've been consuming on fasting and an intermittent fasting, which by the way, it's been a craze for forever. And then I was kind of turned off by the idea, not only because I was listening to specific professionals that were like, no, it's not for everybody, don't follow it. And like a lot of women were experiencing such like horrible side effects or consequences of fasting, like losing their hair or like changes in their hormonal health. And it was just all things that I was like, if I'm not doing this with a doctor, I'm just not even going to explore it.
Mhm.
Now, granted, Dr. Mindy is not our doctor.
Of course.
She's someone that we are consuming. And, you know, if you are not of the personality where you're like, yeah, let me try it, even though I haven't spoken to my doctor, talk to your doctor first. Like there is a lot of research out there. It's not like this is the first time that any doctor on this planet is going to hear about fasting and, you know, be able to guide you accordingly. But she explains why fasting makes so much biological sense to a human being, because we have evolved from the humans that used to have to fast because they didn't fast. This was just how life was lived. This was what the day looked like. And now we have access to food all day long. You could call whatever, Uber Eats or whatever company, things are delivered at your house. You have a pantry full of food, you have refrigerators stocked, and it is so wildly different than like the cavemen who have to like hunt for berries and whatever, find food and kill animals for meat, whatever it was. But like when you really start to sit on those things and you say to yourself, well, wait a second, if it worked for them and we're still built the same way, while we might have evolved like in our neurological sense, where we're a little more developed and sophisticated than they were, at the same time, we still have those primal instincts when it comes to our hormones and how it affects our body and how it affects our healing processes and our energy levels and the cycles. She talks about like how women are cycling alongside what the moon cycles are.
Yes, I heard her say that today. I was like, wow.
And when you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. Like this is like this is how we evolved. It's kind of really cool. It's really cool to like feel like you're, I don't know, reconnecting to yourself in a way that makes a lot of sense.
It's really cool to learn about, and it really makes so much sense to me because I don't know if you remember years back, I did do intermittent fasting.
Mhm.
So I would do 8 hours on, 16 hours off, right? Yeah. So I would have my shake, my breakfast around like 10 a.m. or so. But I was doing that the entire month.
Right.
So I never varied the fast that I was doing. And what I love so much about this lifestyle, because it's not a diet, it's just a lifestyle. She says that if you forget about what you're eating, if you just change the time periods that you're eating in, it will make a difference.
Yeah. If you compress your eating window,
right,
and you just say, I'm allowed to eat whatever the heck I want to eat during this time period, you will lose weight. You'll start, tapping into your fat burning systems, and you're just going to start healing yourself that much faster. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
But you have to pay attention, at least for women.
Yes.
Pay attention to the time of the month that you're like, because the fast that you're supposed to do varies throughout the month.
Right.
So in the beginning, it's like is it 13 hours in the beginning?
So in the very beginning, if you're talking at like a woman's cycle, from days 1 through 10, you can fast anywhere between 13 to 17 hours. And you can even do like longer fasts. Basically, your body, because of the way that your estrogen levels are and your testosterone levels are, you are losing estrogen at that time period, I believe. And you're then in a better situation to have longer fasts because your body is
I think it's increasing in the beginning.
You're right. It's increasing in the beginning. So your body is actually in a good state because estrogen actually is okay when you're fasting and pushing hard and like exerting yourself physically.
Yeah.
But then there's a little bit of a dip and then it comes back again and it surges again. So you have to be mindful of that change. So you go from this, longer fasting window, and then you go into this phase she calls the manifestation phase, which is only like 3 or 4 days long. And you shorten your fasts down to about 13 to 15 hours. And then for another 7 days or so, you can increase your fasts again up to that same kind of power phase at the beginning of your cycle. And then like the last week before your cycle ends, you cannot fast.
You know what I love about that is that you don't feel like you're starving yourself all month. Like
Right.
it changes throughout the month. So you're not
Mhm.
just fasting for 16 hours for 30 days straight.
Right.
So there are days now for me, I normally fast anyway, not even intentionally, but like
Right.
I tend to eat dinner on the earlier side. And so by the time, and I can't eat before I work out in the morning, it makes me sick. So I work out on an empty stomach. And let's say I eat dinner at like 6, or say I finish dinner at 6, and then 6 a.m. is already 12 hours.
Right.
Well, I'm not even done with my workout at that point.
Right.
So I naturally fast like almost 14 hours, 13 and a half, 14 hours.
Right.
So what I found was it was great. The first 2 30-day cycles were great. And then I was like, you know what? I can probably do the advanced protocol because I am already doing this without even thinking about it.
Mhm.
So now I'm doing the advanced one and I like it better
Yeah.
because I actually feel like I'm really fasting as opposed to just what I've always
Doing
done.
what you've always done.
Yeah.
Well, because your body also adapts to it
Right.
too, right? So like that's the other thing. Laura talked about this on a prior episode because she felt like at a certain point that what she'd been doing, which had been very successful for so many years, kind of had reached a plateau, or it just it actually wasn't working at all for you
Was
anymore.
not working at all.
And so our bodies, we have to adapt and we have to be really like mindful and listen to what these changes might be that we need to adjust to, because over time, like you felt like, okay, I could do this. This is a breeze, but can I turn it up at like a little bit of a notch? And you did it for 24 hours.
I was so afraid. Thinking about doing it before I did it was worse than actually doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Thinking about doing it was so much worse. And when there were a couple times where probably around like 1:12 or 1 or so, when I would normally be eating lunch, I was like a little dizzy. I got a little bit of a headache. So I had she recommends the keto cups. So I had one of those. And because it's mostly fat, it doesn't break your fast. Had one of those and then I was fine. And then by the time like I got home from work, I was, of course, what else is new? Running the kids all over the planet. So I didn't have time to think about the fact that I wasn't eating like I normally do.
Yeah.
And then when we finished all of our running around like 7:30 or so, then I had dinner. And I didn't stuff myself because I was afraid because I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. I didn't want to make myself sick.
Yeah.
So I made something light. I had like eggs and I forget what else I made with it. But I had eggs for dinner and then that was it. And then when I woke up the next morning, it was like my head was clear. It was, I don't know. It was something.
And it is so much more than just the food in, food out, like eating window concepts. Like she really does dive into how modern day living is just exposing us to so many more, which I think she calls them like obesogens. Like there are toxins, fragrances, things that we consume, which we don't even realize that we're consuming, off gassing of plastics. Like she goes into this whole really deep dive and it makes so much sense.
I've changed my shampoo, my body wash, my deodorant, everything.
Those little steps. I mean, look, it's not going to completely like change everything.
No. And you can't avoid, like, I understand that it's not good to drink out of a plastic bottle, but like sometimes when I'm running out of the house, I need to grab a plastic bottle of water.
It just happens.
I mean, it is what it is. Like you have to be able to function in this world that we live into.
Yeah.
It's not realistic to say, I'm never going to drink out of a plastic. It's just not realistic.
Right. But
if you can reduce the amount of chemicals that you're exposing yourself to, I think it's better than not doing anything at all, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I kind of like listening to, I can gravitate towards doctors that are, or, you know, anybody that's a professional speaking in the spirit of like really trying to give you that holistic, no nonsense, kind of like, here it is approach to how you can make these small changes. I mean, something like fasting, it really doesn't cost you anything. If
Nope.
anything, it's actually going to save you money because you're not buying as much food
Right.
as you used to. Because, and again, you can eat the amount of food that you're eating right now, but just in a shorter window. And the science supports that it is still going to help you become healthier in the long run. Which is just so crazy. It is so crazy to think of.
It's really amazing because, you know, as we all know, I don't like change.
Yeah.
So when the programs that I was doing for 10 years basically weren't working for me anymore. And when I say they weren't working, I mean, when I went, I felt like bloated. I felt like I had gained a couple pounds, which, listen, I know it's not a big deal, but for you, you know, when you feel good and when you don't.
Absolutely.
So for me, somebody might look at me and be like, what do you mean you gained 3 pounds? Big deal. For me, I didn't feel well.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I just felt gross. So I was like, you know what? I need to change something. And I was so hesitant to try this because I don't like change. I had gone back to the lowest plan in the nutrition plan. And which had always worked for me before. If I needed to lose a couple pounds or like get back on track, I would go back to plan A and portion fix right away. It would work. This time I was like, okay, obviously I need to change something because going back to the bare minimum is not even working anymore.
Right. Right.
So, you know, I needed to find something new. And you know what? Like I said to you, when we were deciding whether or not you wanted to come into partnership with me,
Yep.
nothing is permanent, right? So if you change something and you don't like it, go do something else.
Exactly.
So that was my thought process when I was thinking about doing the fasting. I was like, okay, I'm afraid to do this, but if I don't like it, just maybe try again what I was doing before or find something else. Like it's just temporary.
Yeah.
But you're not going to find something that works if you don't try anything else.
You don't just try like those little tweaks. And this was something that I had read so many conflicting things about it that I'm like, I don't think I will ever be able to follow something like this. I also was in that same mindset of like, well, what I've been doing has worked for me in the past, so let me just continue to do it. And the thing that I've learned the most through this journey is that stress management is what is so high up there on the list because, again, cortisol and adrenaline are things that can really affect your overall hormone health, and it can affect your health at every single level. It's incredible. And I know the days when I get a good night's rest and I'm not feeling as stressed and anxious moving throughout my day, that I feel better overall. Yeah. And you know, those typical things of like, oh, take your measurements, step on the scale, let's see where you're at. If you don't feel good when you do those things, it doesn't matter what those things say.
Right.
It's just the opinion that I've developed over time, because you can feel really, really good and maybe not be at your goal weight that you've decided on, or you can also feel like garbage and you could be at that goal weight. After I had Olivia and I had gone through my postpartum journey, I had great success. Talk about like the stars aligning. Every single program I did, everything that was given to me and that I followed, it made me the healthiest and fittest I had ever been. But at the same time, my anxiety levels were at the highest highs they could ever be. And I had no reason to be anxious like that. And then that's when I started dealing with some gut issues. And I started to go down the path of like really thinking like, what does like a healthy gut look like? Why have I never paid attention to this before? And lo and behold, about 1.5 years later, then our favorite, nutrition and fitness company comes out with a gut program. And I was like, well, let me give this a whirl. And so in addition to fasting, I've also been following the gut protocol, which has helped me realize just one, how the foods that we eat, because we think they're so fast and convenient, are like killing us from the inside. And you can find a tremendously diverse group of foods that you can eat that can support you and your energy levels. And it's just not the typical cookie cutter American diet, but it works. It really does work, and it can help you feel better.
And the one thing that I have taken away from this is that I cannot believe that I am almost 47 years old
Mhm.
and have never been taught or never learned about why we should pay attention to the foods we're eating at certain times of the month.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've never, I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I never learned about it. I never cared about it. I never thought it mattered.
Right.
So now, I mean, this is for me, but I also want to learn about it for Kaylee so
Oh,
that I can
totally.
help her maybe avoid some of the many issues that I had over the years, you know,
Yeah.
because I think looking back, had I paid attention to the foods that I was eating at certain times of the month and just had the knowledge that I have now, I probably wouldn't have suffered the way I did.
Right.
So it's been so interesting to learn. And, you know, we bring these topics to you because they've helped us. So, you know, we are, you know, how important health and wellness is to us. But if there's anybody else out there that has these issues and that is interested in these topics, we like to bring this information to you and just kind of talk about the things that have helped us
Yeah.
because maybe they will help you too. And fasting is definitely something that Amy and I have both been doing. And Amy and I are at different phases of our lives, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
she's in her
totally.
30s, I'm in my late 40s. So very different time periods in terms of being a woman, right?
Mhm.
But like it's working for both of us
Yeah.
for different reasons.
Yes.
So, you know, especially when something happens that's working for the both of us and it has to do with health and wellness, of course, we will
We're
bring
like,
it to you.
we are ready to shout it from the rooftops for you all. Yes.
Yes. So we like sharing this information with you. And, you know, if you try it, we hope it helps. So we thank you for spending time with us and we'll talk to you in the next episode.